This week on the show, we talk about Alberto Del Rio possibly leaving the WWE, the inconsistency of the Authority, Roman Reigns as the next John Cena, and are we on the verge of a new era in the WWE? All of this and more, now on Byte That. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 25 of Byte That, the somewhat, maybe lovable international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which are hearts, roses, and a lot of chocolate. And professional wrestling, that too.
Sexual chocolate.
It's sexual, lady, whoa. But before we go on any further, thank you. We really do want to thank you for the bottom of our hearts, because whether you listen to us through iTunes or Stitcher by searching Byte That, or you listen to show clips, exclusives, and full-length episodes now available over at youtube.com/ByteThatCast, or follow us through Twitter at ByteThatCast or Facebook, you know the deal. Thank you. Whether you're a first-time listener or you love it. Thank you. Because whether you've been listening to a couple episodes or this is your first one, we just want to say we love you. My name is Juan Velascourt. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and last time I checked, that's actually a fact. I really do live down here, and I am joined all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, by Keith Poshik, and from Boston, Massachusetts, Mr. Ryan I don't know. I'm like really hyped, but Keith, is there something wrong with what I'm doing? I don't know.
It's there's a high thing, but it feels weird. It's like high but down, if that makes sense.
Okay, Keith, like, are you ready though? I got it. Are you with me? Are you with me, Keith? Are you with me?
Okay, go.
Okay, give me a countdown, Keith. Give me a countdown.
4, 3, 2, 1, yapapai.
Damas y caballeros, Byte That, el podcast que es quizás, tal vez un poquito internacional, le presenta por primera vez el debut del segmento de la semana con ustedes desde Boston, Massachusetts, el hombre que tiene un pene bien chiquitito, Ryan McNulty, que va a estar hablando sobre el orgullo de México, Alberto del
Backlash. I'm not even good enough to call backlash.
Relic is killer spelled backwards?
It's good. It's pretty good.
Rant mode initiated.
Okay, let me preface the following rant with a report. According to PW Insider, Del Rio hasn't been happy with the direction of his character. He was once a main event player on the SmackDown brand as world champion, and he is now being fed to Batista. While the match between the two hasn't been officially announced, Batista versus Del Rio will likely be added to the upcoming Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, which we know now is true. Del Rio is 36 years old and has several years of mileage on him. It is believed that he's been very good with his money and he shouldn't be in any financial trouble once he departs from the organization. So Del Rio's walking away. Yet another superstar is walking away from the company. But Del Rio, the fact that he is not happy with the direction of his character is kind of bullshit in my opinion. Okay, this is a guy who when he walked in was handed literally everything you could be handed, and he still was not able to get over. Okay, they gave this guy a Royal Rumble win. They gave him a Money in the Bank win. He was two-time WWE champion. That's the top belt in the company. And then for the past 2 years, he has been in the World Heavyweight Championship scene. So he's had about as good a start as any superstar could ever have. And now that he's getting just a few months, it's only been like 2 months tops that he has been out of this World Heavyweight picture, that he wants to walk away. First of all, he's in a program with Batista, the guy that they're having main event WrestleMania this year. And now that he's just not in his little World Heavyweight spot anymore, he wants to walk away. I think that's that's such horseshit. And just that, so many people, so many wrestlers have been up and down the card all the time. This guy has had a consistent spot, and they've kept him on TV almost every single week. And now that he's not in his little precious spot anymore, he wants to walk away. So, you know what? The guy's never been able to connect with the crowd anyway. I say good riddance.
Rant mode. Disengage.
He's not good enough to call Backlash. What can you say?
that was a beautiful rant, Ryan. I gotta say, and by the words of Mr. Dr. Keith Poshik, I agree 100%. PhD. Yeah. No, but really though, I think you nailed it on the head. The guy hasn't connected with anybody. I mean, for crying out loud, he's had a free run, and I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you're demoting his wrestling ability, but in terms of his character,
absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's a really good wrestler. You can tell, but it's almost like the opposite of Sin Cara. No, Sin Cara's just bad overall. Never mind. But with like Del Rio, just bad. His character. Oh well, Hunico's amazing. That guy's awesome. But but Del Rio is just a terrible character. From day one, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, I think. His character was all the way up here. He was made to be a WWE champion since day one, and the people just didn't care. He had the same character that essentially JBL had a couple years before. JBL, it worked. Why? Because the guy was in WWE for years. He transformed from the APA. There was this time period where people could grow into him. But with Del Rio, it's just like, hey, here it is. Like him or hate him, he's this new character.
Mm-hmm. If you want proof that the Del Rio character was never really working from the start, they put him up with CM Punk at the height of the summer of Punk. He was the roadblock in the way of CM Punk getting the WWE title. CM Punk was calling him boring, worthless, and all that even then, and Del Rio didn't change at all since then, during then, or whatever. He just kind of stayed the same. So, yeah, good riddance. Bye, Del Rio. Don't let the frickin' door hit you on the way out.
No, and I do want to point out one thing that always annoyed me about the character. They always say Mexican aristocrat. He's got all these cars. Why did they never do $1 million man gimmick? If you have all this money, why not use it? More than just a car, turn it into a gimmick in the ring. Because that was the biggest problem. Most guys, they have a gimmick up until they get into the ring. And then after that, they're just generic wrestler number 5.
No, I completely agree. And I think one of the reasons they got rid of the sports cars and all that was because people weren't really buying into his gimmick as this, rich aristocrat. So in essence, it's really you either go... you can't go half the way because people don't believe it, but maybe if he went full on into it and did some stuff in the ring, like you said, with the whole gimmick, then the whole thing might have worked together. But sort of going halfway just really made it just completely unbelievable.
Maybe on some weird level, they had like this sub-storyline where Del Rio went bankrupt. He traded all of his cars and all of his stuff in for a bucket. That is not the work of a rich man.
And the last thing I want to say on Del Rio, once again, I am not knocking his wrestling ability, but he had the ability to make any program with any wrestler uninteresting to me. It was, usually the pay-per-view match, like I said, would be pretty good. But when Del Rio was in a feud with somebody, like if he was in a feud with someone I liked, I was just like, oh man, like they have to do a feud with Del Rio. Like it just took away, it sucked the interest right out of me. I don't know if any of you guys felt the same way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, completely. I can point out a lot of matches actually like from Del Rio. Last year he had a great match with Christian. So the thing is, it's like, okay, we saw that match. Now, can you please just have another good match with another wrestler and not do this again?
Agreed. That's kind of why the pairing between Del Rio and Ricardo worked so well, because Ricardo was all the personality and Del Rio was the wrestling ability. Like Ricardo kept you entertained on Raw. Then Del Rio had the great pay-per-view match, and once they split that duo up, it was like blatantly obvious what was wrong with Del Rio. And once again, nothing changed.
No, and you brought up the wild card, which is Ricardo Rodriguez. I don't think that WWE ever intended this guy to be so over with the crowd. Honestly, I think his Twitter account and all that stuff really had a lot to do with the reason he got so over. But it shows a huge character flaw when the announcer, whose only job is to announce, I mean, he interfered every now and then, but it wasn't really enough to him to get cheered. If anything, you should get booed, everything he was doing. But for some reason, Ricardo became the reason that I cared about Alberto Del Rio. I wanted to see the beginning of the match and the end of the match just to see how he'd interact. Now, when's the last time there was somebody like that their manager or like the sidekick or something? Has there been anybody like that in recent history within like the last 5-6 years?
What, where managers outshined their wrestler?
Mm-hmm. I think Daivari would have been the last one with maybe Muhammad Hassan.
No, Hassan carried himself pretty damn well.
Then I got nothing.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and I think that speaks a lot.
What about
Del
Zeb
Rio.
Coulter and Jack Swagger? That's kind of the same thing back when those two were a pairing without Cesaro. Like you were excited for that for Coulter, not Swagger. At least that's me.
Well, I think it's a little different. It's kind of like when there's a faction, because the way I see it, I think from day one they were just like, you know what, Jack Swagger's the wrestler, but Sub Coulter's the guy we want to buy into, and you could tell why. Who was cutting the promos? Who was doing everything? I mean, Jack Swagger was only wrestling and looking at a teleprompter and mumbling his words because apparently he's got to keep his mouth open when there's a green screen thing going on. But with this, it was the complete opposite. The spotlight's completely on Alberto Del Rio. He did everything. And quick question, this is interesting. I mean, look at who just left. Sin Cara, who apparently doesn't even know if he owns the gimmick or not, and Alberto Del Rio. Two guys that come from a similar background, and it seems like they both sort of suffered the same fate. Is there a reason for that? Maybe like adapting to the WWE style? Is it really that hard? I mean, I don't think anybody here can answer that unless you've wrestled for the WWE, Keith, or something. I don't think so. But
I am a Slammy Award winner.
True. But does that go a long way to saying just how different WWE is as opposed to all of the rest of wrestling?
Well, honestly, I think you're the best one of us to answer that, Juan, because you're more familiar with that lucha libre being in Puerto Rico and all. So is it that much different?
Well, here in Puerto Rico, it's actually that's racist, man. We don't really have that much lucha libre.
It's geographically correct.
What?
Oh,
that doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even make sense geographically. Have you looked at a map recently, man? What the hell?
Yeah.
Cuba's closer to me.
Let me just step in on this one and
Please.
say that I think the issues between Sin Cara and Del Rio are very, very different. Sin Cara's issues maybe was adapting to the WWE style and communicating with other wrestlers in the ring. That was not Del Rio's problem at all. Del Rio was able to work fine matches. His problem was not being able to connect with the crowd, which is a key thing. And the thing is, you can't even just boil it down to character. There's a lot of things, because, I mean, you look at someone like Cesaro, who has connected with the crowd, yet he doesn't really have much of a character now, does he? They don't really give him a chance to show that character. It's little things that you do in the ring that lets the audience kind of in on what's going on, kind of has them interested. That's where I think there's a big disconnect with Del Rio.
It seems like, especially recently, that you get over in the WWE for having those moments. Like Cesaro has the Cesaro swing, Daniel Bryan has yes, or the yes movement, or whatever you want to call it. But Del Rio's never really had that. Like, I guess he's menacing when he puts you in the cross arm breaker, but ooh.
Is it really all that recent? I mean, Austin 316, Suck It.
True.
I think that's just a standard thing of wrestling that a lot of guys just apparently don't really seem to get. So whether Alberto Del Rio stays or leaves, personally, I don't give a crap. Best of luck in your future endeavors. Maybe you can join Sin Cara, make a double Sin Cara type tag team or something. I don't know. Just I never really cared for either one of the guys. Now, switching gears, absolutely. How's that racist? Wait, you're telling me
they can become the Mexican Power Rangers?
Well, they suffered the same fate. They suffered the same fate, regardless of whatever it happened, whether it be wrestling or something. Neither one of them
the same fate.
Successfully became. Yeah, look, I mean,
one's leaving under his own terms.
Yeah, but But,
The other one's
never mind
identity
the
was
conclusion.
stolen.
Yeah, but don't.
Yeah.
At least
And the guy who
for
stole
me,
his
I'm not
identity is
focusing on the
better than
conclusion.
him. Doesn't that suck?
Well, that's
you know?
Well,
What if
fine.
one day?
You know what? Fine.
What if
I don't
one day?
like either one of you.
All right, hold on. What if one day you showed up to work? Okay, you show up to work, right? And there's some other dude sitting in your chair, and you're like, "Who's this guy?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, no, that's the new guy, and he's better than you, but he is you. So go home."
Not true. I feel kind of bad for Sin Cara. Not really. Anyway, moving on to bigger, better things. I do want to talk about February 24th. Probably the biggest Raw, arguably the biggest wrestling show WWE's ever had. As just after that, we're launching the WWE Network. We've heard a lot of rumors about guys that have apparent confirmed appearances. Obviously, you know, I always take everything with a grain of salt, but it seems like this is legit, and it would make sense. 3 guys that have been quote-unquote confirmed to appear. Number 1, Jimmy Hart, the Mouth of the South. Number 2, The Undertaker, who I don't think it's really much of a surprise to anybody considering WrestleMania's around the corner. Number 3, the guy that was apparently supposed to return back at the WWE Network launch, which is Hulk Hogan. Now, those are 3 pretty big names for a 3-hour show that's probably going to feature a ton of awesome matches. Next week's show's got to have a lot of good stuff, just building up for it. I got to ask, out of the 3 guys, is there anybody in particular you're looking forward to just see or getting to a program, or what's your realistic expectation?
As much as we know Hulk Hogan really can't do anything anymore, I am actually looking forward to seeing him back in WWE, because when's the last time he was in WWE? That it had to be his match with Randy Orton at SummerSlam 2006, maybe?
Yeah, I think
Correct.
so.
It'll be nice to kind of have him back, because it's just been so long, and there's the whole nostalgia factor. So I'd have to say Hogan is the one I'm looking forward to the most, followed by The Undertaker. And I'd like to see a little more from The Undertaker this year, as far as his first appearance back than last year, where he just kind of came out, raised his arms, and a WrestleMania logo showed up. You know, so
Yeah.
Hopefully we see a little something more with that. And I know Brock Lesnar's going to be there too, so maybe they start that program, because it looks like that's probably gonna happen.
Yeah, that's what makes the most sense, setting that up. Like, remember a couple of years ago when The Undertaker came back? It was the big, like, everybody thought it was Sting. There was those weird vignettes. The Undertaker came back, and then completely unannounced, Triple H came back. They didn't say a single word, and then they just, like, looked at the WrestleMania sign, and that program started to build. Maybe they'll do something like that with Brock, where The Undertaker comes back, Brock Lesnar immediately comes out, and boom, program set.
So nobody's looking forward to Jimmy Hart? Come on. Mouse of the South.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Do you guys think that he's going to be with Hogan, or is Jimmy Hart just going to do his own thing?
It would be pretty cool, actually. I don't think he should be with Hogan, simply because I think it would take a little bit away from, like, the moment, because they would be divided, especially it's a 3-hour show, so they're probably going to maybe do a backstage segment. Like, maybe once Hogan's already come out, he's going to come backstage or something. Hey, Jimmy Hart, Mouse of the South, or something like that. At least for me, in regards to the 3 guys, Undertaker. I mean, every year it's sort of like the big question: is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year? And number 1, I'll be really pissed if Sting turns out to be the guy for WrestleMania. I don't know if it's a popular opinion or not. It's mine. Sting is way past his Optimus Prime. Just give that to Bumblebee or something. Put that on the sidelines. It would be really interesting to see Brock Lesnar take on Undertaker, because considering Brock Lesnar's just this huge asshole of a character, he can talk about Undertaker being this old, washed-up guy that can barely wrestle. Why? Because then if he beats him, it just means that much more for the streak to continue. It would sort of demean Brock Lesnar a bit, but as long as he gets paid, I don't think he really cares.
I'm just looking forward to when Brock Lesnar beats The Undertaker at WrestleMania. He's going to drink a Coors Light. That's right, a Coors Light.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone has seen that video. Yeah, because Bud Light don't pay me nothing. All right, anyone who's listening who wants to see a funny video of Lesnar, look up when he, after a UFC match, he decides to promote Coors Light, even though Bud Light sponsored the UFC event. Just check it out. It's hilarious. Honestly, I really don't want to see Lesnar versus The Undertaker. I think it will be a great match, but like I said, I would rather see Undertaker face John Cena or someone else. I just think they should be in separate programs. I think we've all talked about before, we'd rather see Batista and Lesnar face each other. So that's just my opinion.
I agree 100%. Oh, yeah. Because, like, I know we say this every year, but there's a chance that this is The Undertaker's last WrestleMania. I would much prefer to see something that we haven't seen before, like Undertaker John Cena. I guess we have seen it technically before, but it's been almost 11 years. Or Undertaker D-Bry. I think that'd be a hell of a match. Undertaker Brock Lesnar, we saw it for month after month after month after month in Brock's last run. So I'm not really interested in it, honestly.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see Batista take on Brock. However, if the question was, is this Undertaker's last WrestleMania match, then yeah, I would say John Cena should be the one and only guy. Because just think about that atmosphere. I mean, if we've had that with Triple H, with Shawn Michaels, just picture John Cena and Undertaker. That would be just an amazing match that could stand alone by itself at WrestleMania. I just saw too much of Keith. I'm just going to point that out. You can elaborate on that later.
You're welcome.
Speaking of not expecting anything big, I think it's time for this week's. I'm a little disturbed right now. I apologize, folks. Somebody please hug me.
Just look up the JR rap video about the ass and it'll make so much sense.
Oh, I think we just got like 50 people to stop listening. And if you're still here, we love you. But
wait, Hulk Hogan, 50 people were listening.
Oh my God. So with Hulk Hogan, are you guys really expecting anything big to come out of this? I mean, as Ryan mentioned, maybe he can't really wrestle all that much, but is he just coming to show up, or what are we seeing?
I'm honestly not expecting anything big. I've seen his sex tape, so yeah.
Oh,
Jesus.
Speaking of not expecting anything big, I think it's time for this week's
Tweet of the Week! Tweet of the Week!
That's right, Juan, and you listen to me because it's Tweet of the Week time. Oh yeah, brother. And this week's Tweet of the Week is brought to you by a Vanilla Midget, at a Vanilla Midget. And it's a nice little beautiful story about everybody's favorite 2013 comeback story, Goldust. Every Goldust match features a subplot of him slowly reverting back to Dustin as his paint chips away. This has been this week's Tweet of the Week!
Tweet of the Week! Tweet of the Week!
So remember, folks, if you're a Vanilla Midget, like Vanilla Midget, you can send us a tweet over at Byte That Cast, and you could maybe be the Tweet of the Week.
Yeah.
Absolutely. New beginnings. That's my transition. We talked about these people quite a while ago, and we were hyped.
What do you mean, these people?
Who
It's
are
racist.
these people? No, hey, not that there's anything wrong with that, but we're talking about The Authority and Randy Orton. Now, when this first came into play, it's like 20 episodes ago, 15 episodes ago, we were really pumped because this is something different. You know, we got a brand new faction featuring Triple H, Stephanie, you know, a new direction, Triple H openly being the businessman he is. But then it sort of faded away. I think it happened around the time Kane got involved. It just seemed to just become a generic stable that maybe has some kind of identity crisis. I don't know if I'm alone with that.
I think the key word here is inconsistency. We have the Authority telling Orton to be more intense, and then when he's intense, they say, you know, he's being bad and like he needs to settle down. And then when he's like too calm, they're like, you need to be more intense. And then they're like, you're the face of the company. Wait, you're not the face of the company. We're going to put you in this match. And if you win this match, you're the face of the company. And then the next week they come out and they're like, well, you're not really the face of the company. So, and then the Authority themselves, there'll be baby faces, there'll be heels, there'll be tweeners, whatever's convenient at the time. It's just completely inconsistent. And I think whatever, they had some major heat, you know, during the summer and during the fall, and a lot of that has dropped off. Like, they had so much heat that people were clamoring for the Big Show. So that's when you know they were doing things right. But it has since fallen off big time. And even Daniel Bryan, sometimes they're like big cool with them, and then sometimes they're not. So it's just all over the place.
Totally. They've been basically going in a giant circle since SummerSlam. Like you said with the whole Randy Orton thing, like, oh, this week Randy Orton's going to come out and cut this promo about how he's mistreated. Then something bad's going to happen. Then he's going to apologize. Oh, this week he's apologizing on SmackDown instead of Raw. Oh no, big twist. And then they just repeat it over and over and over again. And it's basically been going on for about 9 months now. It's kind of getting a little ridiculous.
At this point, I would almost argue they represent the creative team. Why? Because does it feel like they are
because they have no idea what they're doing?
No, absolutely. No, it seems like, okay, they gotta cheer for the following segment. Okay, so we're coming out and we're acting as faces, so they pop for that segment. Oh, they gotta hate the next thing, so we'll just come out as heels and do that. They're the transition to whatever the hell's going on in the show. The problem is, maybe they didn't plan on the WWE Network launching around this time. I'm assuming so, because otherwise, as a business, that's terrible. But I guess that's maybe why they can't be full heel, because of the network, but it just doesn't make sense. And at least to me, Stephanie McMahon, she's the heel. I think at this point she's still the heel, but her voice, like her sarcastic overacting tone, it's getting to the Jeff Jarrett point in TNA. I don't know if you get my point of me just wanting to turn the channel, because I'm like, okay, I don't buy your character anymore.
Mark Tenay.
Yeah, Mark Tenay.
Man.
But yeah, like that's exactly it. For a while there, Stephanie was the heel, shitting on the Big Show. Then Triple H got knocked out. Then he was the heel. He was basically like slowly turning into this tyrant. And then that disappeared. And then they became like these good people that are going to do what's best for business and unify the title. And then all that heel heat kind of dissipated. And then nothing's happened since then.
I like how in wrestling they try and keep things simple, but really, and it seems like that would have been the simple answer. Just make them be bad guys and make them oppose Daniel Bryan and anyone else. But now it's just so convoluted. Like, you have Kane there, and Kane's sort of the GM, but Brad Maddox is actually the GM. But sometimes Triple H and Stephanie run the show, but then sometimes they don't run the show. It's just like, it's whatever's convenient at whatever time, and that's when it's annoying, and it's not good storytelling, period.
And the thing that's really bad about it is, think about how much time they've invested into the Authority. Not Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, once again, he doesn't need anything at this point, but they've invested into this whole, you're not the guy, B+, over and over. It's happened to the point where you think, well, obviously this is leading into some kind of Triple H thing, but they just keep shifting everything. Like you mentioned, 1 week Kane's coming out. What was Kane doing once he went into corporate Kane? Nothing. So it's like, okay, so Kane's coming up, but we haven't really seen his character all that much ever since he changed. So wait, where's Brad Maddox? Wait, he's back now, and then he's gone again. So
and then
it's
the
this
Shield.
Sort of thing. Exactly.
They're enforcers. Now they're
Shield?
not enforcers.
Yeah, and the thing is, nothing gets explained. It's just sort of like, here are these guys that will be used when necessary.
Like, it almost damages everything it touches. Look at the United States title. That basically is destroyed in the fray too because of the Shield. The Shield were the enforcers. Basically, since the beginning of the Authority angle, Dean Ambrose never defended the title. It's just sat there. And now it means nothing.
Exactly. And I mean, one thing we can talk about there is what happened on Raw. He defends his championship, and it just felt like, okay, so now you're acknowledging this thing that you have apparently, and it's like a mystery partner, a mystery opponent.
I give him credit though for actually acknowledging the past few weeks that it never gets defended. So I give him credit because they usually don't even do that. They'll just be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna defend the title now." So I do give him credit, and I liked how they used him not defending it as sort of a reason for there to be a little bit more tension between Reigns and Ambrose. So yeah, that's. Side note, done.
Quick question though, I'm legitimately curious about this. Explain to me the logic of not defending the United States Championship after so long.
The logic of not defending it? Wait, what?
Exactly. Think about the fact that, okay, you won a championship, and I'm just not going to defend it. I'm just going to be around my waist. Creative-wise, is there any logic to us as fans, or whatever you want to say, as to why it wasn't defended throughout all this time?
Like, is there a kayfabe reason why?
Exactly.
Or no. It wasn't convenient for storylines because they needed the Shield for other things, so they never got around to putting him in title matches.
Mm-hmm. If you want to come up with some weird, like, convoluted thing, maybe it was because the Shield were the enforcers, but because of that, Dean Ambrose didn't have to defend his title. He get to keep it as long as they do whatever Triple H says. But halfway through thinking about that, I realized it's wrong because Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins lost the titles during that time. So, no, I got nothing.
I actually want to ask you something, Keith. Before we started recording the podcast, you mentioned that you were expecting somebody else to be the mystery opponent. Who was it?
Mm-hmm. I swore it was going to be Roman Reigns, just the way that he's like, yeah, like, why don't you defend it? And then he kind of gave him like a smile when he said, I'll just give out an open challenge. I thought Roman Reigns was going to enter the ring and beat Dean Ambrose for the US title. And then that adds to the whole Shield tension. Maybe that's what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. You never know. But that's what I put my money on, not Mark Henry. Mark Henry seemed kind of weird.
I think they didn't want to give away a money match just like that. They have to keep the Shield away from facing each other until they do the eventual breakup. It would have been a nice little story, but I think they're doing the right thing by having them not face each other quite yet, and they're building that up to a pay-per-view match. You can't just give that away for free, even though a lot of the best matches seem to be on free TV nowadays. Logical, booking wise, you don't want to give that away for free.
Something else about the Shield, it was kind of interesting on Raw. They can make it more obvious that Reigns is sort of the face of the Shield, more so than before. I mean, when we had the whole phase down between the Wyatt family and the Shield, who were the two guys sort of representing each faction. You got Bray Wyatt, you got Roman Reigns. So how did you guys feel about that?
It is interesting that, first, just to mention how they kind of are portraying Reigns now as the leader. Because if you look back at some of the older Shield promos, it really seemed like Ambrose was usually the guy in the middle and he was sort of the de facto leader. But now you look at the promos and it's definitely more of a focus on Reigns. I thought the segment was probably perfect. I think that was the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to, have both factions go to each side of the ring. They all, they climb up on the ropes, and then the two leaders sort of walk in, and then who, even though this is a heel versus heel faction, your obvious heels in this situation is going to be the Wyatt family. So the Shields are going to be kind of just portraying sort of the babyface side, even though they're still going to be heel. But it was perfect for Bray Wyatt to then walk out and, they take all the heat. And it was awesome because the crowd was so ready for them. And then it just gives the Wyatt family that much more heat by just walking away from it. So I thought this was probably one of the best done segments on Raw by far this week.
Oh, totally. And as great as a segment as it was, it makes it even better because they have a new thing for the Wyatts. I don't know if you noticed this, but they changed the lantern thing. Now he's more crazy with his blowing out, and it's still a lantern inconsistency, and it bothers me so much because it's the worst, but it's awesome at the same time. I'm so confused.
Hashtag soft white light bulbs. Really, is it just that difficult? Mm-hmm. Final thing I want to comment about this. I don't think it's breaking news to everybody or anybody, but we keep seeing Roman Reigns just constantly outshine almost everybody, to the point where we saw a report that states that apparently WWE envisions Reigns as the next John Cena, the guy that just passed broke the Make-A-Wish record for like over 400,000. What was it? Just like
400. 400.
Yeah, 400.
400. Jesus H. Christ, dude.
Make-A-Wish.
If there's that many sick kids in the United States, I am fucking depressed. If there are 400,000,
Send for the plague.
1,000. Yeah, but over 400. That's freaking crazy. And that's who WWE is comparing Roman Reigns to. Do you really see that as a possibility?
We've spoken about it on here before, and we've all talked about, who could possibly be those guys that take Cena's spot, and all of us pretty much had a consensus on Roman Reigns. So it really is. I mean, he's the perfect build for WWE. He's that prototype that they like. I guess no pun intended with the John Cena stuff. So it's obvious that that's the guy they're going to go with. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, he hasn't really been truly battle tested for that spot yet, but he's definitely a guy worth investing in to see if he can, if he can handle it. So it's not a surprise to me, and honestly, I think there's a good chance he could be that guy. But we've all been wrong before, so let's see what happens.
I think the biggest exclamation mark here is the fact that the Shield, even though they maybe had like some kind of singles match or something, they've always been the Shield. When they break away, you gotta wonder though, how well can these guys run by themselves? Everything from how they dress after the Shield breaks up, their theme music, how is their character gonna change, and that's something that's a really big risk. Especially a guy like Roman Reigns, who is the Superman strong guy, but he's, like you mentioned, he hasn't been battle tested on a singles ground in the WWE, not FCW.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is the funny thing is even though he's supposed to be the guy, if you look at the Shield, he's the one you're most concerned about in a singles standpoint, because I think we're all pretty confident that Rollins and Ambrose can handle themselves as a single role. With Ambrose, we know, has got the really good mic work, and Rollins has the really good ring work, whereas Reigns is sort of in the middle there, and he definitely makes his moves look impactful and stuff, but I haven't really seen a truly remarkable singles match from Reigns yet.
I disagree, just because we're comparing him to John Cena. Think about John Cena roughly about 10 or 8 to 10 years ago. Everybody's like, oh, Cena can't wrestle, he can't do anything, he can't do this, he can't do that. He was still the top guy in the company, and I mean, Reigns has a lot of time to improve. He's actually not that bad. Like, think about that match a few weeks ago against CM Punk. It was a really good match. So I'd say Reigns has what... Yeah, oh, right. Remember that match against Redacted a few weeks ago? It was a really great match.
Oh,
but
right.
Honestly, I think Rollins is the one that I'm most worried about in as far as it goes when the Shield goes into a single, like 3 singles people. I think Ambrose will have his place as the heel. Roman Reigns has everything he needs to be the top guy. He has like the legacy behind him with The Rock. He has the look. He's a big guy. He has everything. His promo work has gotten amazing in comparison to him just swearing and screaming and everything like that.
Keep gushing, baby. Keep gushing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, Rollins, I'm concerned about his spot, where he would be. Like, I could see him just sort of, sitting in the mid card. His ability is nothing I'm concerned about as far as wrestling. Reigns, like I said, he's certainly got a good moveset and can work a decent match. Like I said, I haven't seen a truly great match from him yet, and his mic work is getting much better. But, even though Cena, a lot of people questioned his wrestling ability, he was still able to carry himself really well with the mic work. So hopefully Reigns will find his best quality to carry himself, to carry his career, whether that be his ring work or his mic work, but my guess would be his moveset.
Sort of give an ending to this segment. I think that the biggest comparison or thing we can talk about is that John Cena had a defining moment when you're like, okay, so this is the guy, and that was at WrestleMania. Maybe when he wrestled either the Big Show or GBL. He had these specific moments when you could sort of go, that's the guy. I think
it's when he beat Triple H at WrestleMania 22. That's when I think he was legit.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because I agree, but I think at that point he was already the guy, at least for me.
Well, I think John Cena, not necessarily that moment, but I think when he was starting to really catch on with his mic work, with his his raps and everything, even though he was a heel and the audience was really getting behind him, I think that's honestly when they really saw something in him, was because even though it's one of those things when even though you're a bad guy, the audience just really starts to get behind you. That's, I think,
like Bray Wyatt,
a defining quality. Yes.
Has Roman Reigns had his defining moment then, or is it coming at WrestleMania?
It hasn't quite happened yet, but you've seen that the crowd has sort of gotten behind him a little bit. It's not quite there yet, but because they haven't full on they've been teasing the breakup, but it hasn't really picked up in intensity yet. It's all very subtle at this point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can argue that Roman kind of had a bit of a micro moment at the Royal Rumble, beating Kane's record, and the crowd was chanting for him, but he hasn't had that defining moment yet. And I think even with the whole Shield thing, it's still a little too early at WrestleMania, maybe around SummerSlam.
I do want to sort of talk about John Cena, though. On Raw, he cut a promo regarding the WWE's shifting gears. It's a new era, new beginning. February 24th, we already talked about, Taker, Hogan, Jimmy Hart. But then John Cena keeps talking about WWE sort of breaking ground, moving on to the next step. I want to get your thoughts regarding his promo. Did it just feel like a John Cena hyping up something because he's John Cena and he does that? Or did you really buy into him when he said that there is a new era beginning? Do you see a new era launching alongside the WWE network?
It's a bit of a double-edged sword, really, because, there are guys like The Shield, the Wyatts, Antonio Cesaro, Daniel Bryan that are coming up. But at the same time, WrestleMania is going to be Brock Lesnar. It's going to be John Cena. It's Batista, The Undertaker. There's still that old guard that's in place. And maybe after WrestleMania, maybe that's when the real shift is. But right now, it doesn't. It seems like it's just words.
No, he's completely right. I think the promo, while it was nice and he says all this jargon about a new era and everything, it's really not. And eras just don't happen. They don't change overnight. It's a slow process. And I like how he's saying that his match with Randy Orton is some defining moment of the end of an era, when it's just like a random match before Elimination Chamber. He has to face everyone in the chamber. It's a match of convenience. There's no epic storyline to this. So it was funny how he was making it seem like so much more than it really was, which was just a singles match before B-level pay-per-view.
So question, what would it take for either one of you to see a new era? Like, what does the beginning of a new era look like? Is it a new guy? Is it a change of rating, a change of pace, a change of tone in the content? What is it?
I think one of the biggest things is Daniel Bryan's title run. At this point, Daniel Bryan's inevitable title run. That's kind of the first step of many for the new era. They're not really giving him the torch, but it'll be a really big thing by like giving Daniel Bryan the title.
Well, let me ask you this. When did the Attitude Era begin?
Probably when DX was formed. That was the beginning of the Attitude Era. That's what I'd say. The beginning of the Attitude Era.
But the definitive answer is not really there. No one can say, "Oh, when did the Attitude Era?" Oh, it began, May 19th. And I
there's
said that.
Two
on purpose,
answers to that. Yeah, we all know what happened on that day, but there's two answers to that. It was during or right before the Montreal Screwjob when DX started picking up steam, or some would argue that it began at WrestleMania, the WrestleMania where Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold fought and Stone Cold won the title.
And some say it was the Austin 316 promo. See, there's several moments that lead up to an era, I think. That there's several key moments that sort of change the atmosphere, change the tone. I think a few things, have to happen. And to be honest, like how I was trying to say this reality era thing, I'm even willing to say, even though this happened a few years ago, but sort of the Punk's pipe bomb was sort of a step towards a new era. And then obviously Daniel Bryan, his moment, and when he eventually maybe somewhat maybe wins the title again or something like that. I think
it's inevitable.
A few things
Come on now.
have to fall in line. And we're not quite there yet, but I think a lot of people do sense that there is going to be a change, that that the company is sort of starting to shift in direction, but it's not quite there yet. We're sort of in a transitional period, and Edge would not be none too happy about that.
Transitional period. And I really do think that with the WWE Network, we are going to see that, and maybe we're going to see. I mean, it's already happened, every once in a while. Like now, we were talking about this off air, that we're getting a lot of guys showing up at, Wrestling with Rosenberg, like all these shows where they completely talk off character. I just finished listening to The Art of Wrestling with Dean Ambrose. If you haven't listened to that interview, check it out. Art of Wrestling. He says, fuck, like, holy shit. The guy swears like a mother. He easily, like 60 times, he says the freaking F word during the whole podcast. And you got to think to yourself, does WWE monitor this or what's going on? And I think this right here is what the new era is. Whatever you want to call it, I don't even think it's the reality era. Like right now, WWE announced they're getting into podcasting. So it's one of those things where they're just going to provide every single content that's out there and just seeing sort of what sticks, be it interviews on other shows, be it supporting podcasts like Stone Cold or something, making their own podcasts, making post and pre-Raw SmackDown shows in the network. Do you think it's a little much though? Like WWE has a podcast now. Do you see that as something you're excited for, or is it just like, you know what? How much freaking content can I take from the WWE?
All right. Well, I think there is such a thing as content overload. See, it's one thing with the podcast and like all these sort of extra things. I don't think that's a big deal. Have as much of that as you want. The YouTube channel, JBL Cole Show, all that's fine. Because it's not something you feel like you have to watch. It's there if you want it, so watch it if you feel like it. But there is sort of a content overload with 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 1 hour of main event, and then you got a 3-hour pay-per-view once a month, and then WWE Network's gonna have all this content. But like I said, that's sort of less important, and it's more just there if you want it. So I think you can reach a point of content overload, and I think they're really on that line.
See, I disagree with you 100%. As three guys who have been saying for weeks that we are excited about the WWE Network and diving into that library, I don't think there is such thing as content overload. The WWE has been going in this direction where they want, this is going to be funny, but they want to create like a WWE 24/7. Like you can always watch something WWE related, or like if you can't watch something, listen to something. I think a podcast fits perfectly in the network that they're trying to create.
But at the same time, the network has things like, Armageddon 2002 or something, that's not something you feel like you have to keep up with on a weekly basis. You're going back and watching it as you please. It's not like, oh, I gotta watch Raw and I gotta watch SmackDown and I gotta watch Main Event this week. That's what I'm talking about, where to keep up, there's so much content. Obviously, the side stuff and the older stuff, you don't have to keep up with.
Yeah, like right now, I'm simple math. If I count the pre and post shows, Raw and SmackDown, NXT, Main Event, Superstars, and I think there's something else, it's 13 hours of weekly content if you were to keep up with the WWE. And it's not, it's like Ryan mentioned, it's not like past shows where it's like, you already know that's happened. It's all the way back in the backlog. If you watch Armageddon a month from now or 5 months from now, it's not going to have any direct impact on what's happening right now. Where if hypothetically you wanted to keep up with everything, and now like the podcast and all that, it's like, really? Like, how much content? You have a 3-hour show. It almost seems, at least to me, I guess this would sort of be like the final question for the show is, does WWE not know how to condense their content, and instead they're just like, more is more instead of less is more?
I think they just think more is more, and they don't realize that also having more TV time also means that they have to put more creative into it, and thus it ends up being worse because they have to write an hour more each week, and then they add another show, so they have to write more, so the quality is going down.
The third hour on Raw does really hurt everything. But at the same time, if you feel like there is too much fat, there's also like Raw on Hulu where all of that gets cut. All of their YouTube videos and series, they're not that long. Like the JBL and Cole show is an average between 3 and 5 minutes. They do know how to filter themselves. They just don't do it on their TV programming.
But see, that's the thing that pisses me off. Like, just quick example. A movie. You watch a movie, right? You get an extended cut, but you rarely get a cut where you just cut 30 minutes of the movie. Why? Because this is what you're getting yourself into. Now, if they can cut, or they're willing to sacrifice content from Raw to Hulu, what you're telling me is that content shouldn't even be in the big show to begin with. If you're devoted to cutting it out, what's the point of having it in there?
It's the big show. It's a big match. No, you're exactly right. If you can watch the Hulu Raw and sit through those shitty commercials, like for the fucking mosque and shit, then what's the point of watching the regular Raw? Because they cut it down to nice 2 hours or an hour and a half or something, and you get all the important stuff. So you're absolutely right. When they're deciding what gets cut and what doesn't, then shouldn't they just be like, well, we don't need this on the regular show either? But at the same time, they have that third hour because USA wants it, and it's more money, as Sylvester LaFour would say.
The money. The Benjamins. It's all about the Benjamins.
And I want to thank everyone for tuning in this week. Once again, if you listened this long, then you should probably be interacting with this show in some way. Okay? First and foremost, you can go to bytethat.com, and in the top right corner, you will see all of our social media buttons. That's Byte That with a Y. We have our YouTube channel, youtube.com/bytethatcast, now with full episodes. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, interact with us on YouTube. We've got show clips, we've got exclusives, we've got DVD reviews and unboxings. Check it out.
Holler if you hear me.
Oh, Juan is also going to be putting up a DDP yoga video this week, so make sure to check that out. And you can follow us on Twitter at ByteThatCast. We tweet during Raw. We sometimes tweet during SmackDown. No promises there, though, because, it's SmackDown. We tweet during the week. Make sure to follow us. Ask us a question. Maybe we'll answer it on the show. Maybe we'll plug your shit. You got some shit worth plugging? Maybe we'll plug it. We plugged a Vanilla Midget, so we'll plug anything.
Yeah, Ryan has no discrepancy when it comes to plugging things. But if you're like me and spending this Valentine's Day by yourself and have nothing to plug, why don't you come hang out on Saturday at Why don't you come hang out this week at r/Squared Circle, where they're going to be playing the St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view. It's probably the last cage match of the great old cage between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vincent Kennedy McMahon. It's going to be a gay old time once again. It was a ton of fun last week when they played New Year's Revolution, and I'm sure it'll be just as great again.
Yeah, don't forget to say hi to Keith if you end up going to that. Anyway, also subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. Hey, maybe write us a review if you like the show. And then if you're on Stitcher, you can give us a thumbs up. You can like us through Facebook. And speaking of Facebook, we also have a Facebook that nobody likes to like. So why don't you like it? Because we want likes. We like to be liked. So that'll do it for this week's show, which was just a train wreck of an ending. But we will see you next week. Okay. Alright, the best thing ever. This week's Tweet of the Week is brought to you by a vanilla midget. That is the greatest thing ever.
If you got like this hybrid impersonation of like Macho Man and Hulk Hogan and
Edge.
yeah.
And Edge.
Wow.
This week's podcast is brought to you by a vanilla midget.